all set to go. First edition of Howling with the Wolfe. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Hey, Matt. What's up, man? Yeah, I just kind of wanted to do this segment. I think it's a good chance for me to talk to some Titans fans, talk to some NFL fans, just to answer some questions that you guys have about the team, about the NFL in general. It's a little bit of an informal setting. So, yeah, it'll be as fun as you guys want to make it. Bring all your questions. Feel free to fire away, and we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. If this goes well, we'll do more. But yeah, it's depending on how much you guys want this and what feedback you guys want. So yeah, I like to do it whether it's Wednesday or we'll do it on Tuesday. Either way, it's a good way to kind of communicate with you guys and talk about the Titans. First week they struggled against the Raiders. Then they got better. It's second week in Jacksonville. They played a game where they needed to win it, and they did. That was a game where they improved in a lot of areas. They improved defensively, offensively. They looked like the team that a lot of people thought they were going to be coming into the season. And yeah, so big week, big game this week. I'm sideways. Okay, let me see if I can figure that out. Hold on one second. Let me see, does this work? Am I still sideways? I think I am still sideways. Let me see. Alright, yeah, I think this is better. Thank you guys for sticking with me. Derrick Henry. He's going to get the ball a lot. I think that was the big question all week for, I guess, the start of the week from Malarkey, and just, hey, what's up with Derrick Henry? He had 14 carries for 92 yards in the first game, and just watched the film earlier, and he was hitting the holes hard, and he was running over guys. He was the type of physical back that the Titans need late in games. So DeMarco Murray's dealing with a little bit of hamstring injury. It's a type of situation where, how Derrick Henry plays while DeMarco Murray is limited is going to have a big impact on what that role is going forward. They spent a lot of money on DeMarco, so I don't foresee him being the type of guy who loses his starting job completely. But I think it is a situation where, hey, Derrick Henry was drafted in the second round for a reason, and he's a physical back who provides something that DeMarco Murray doesn't. So for fantasy users, I think DeMarco Murray is a guy who you may be needing to sell, and Derrick Henry may be a guy who you need to be buying, because I think those snaps will be coming closer to 50-50, 60-40 than the 75-25 split they have been in recent years. So yeah, I think we'll ask Malarkey a lot more about the injury status of DeMarco Murray and also of Corey Davis, who also suffered a hamstring injury a little bit later today. There's a press conference after practice later on. So we'll ask him about that, and depending on the severity of that injury, that will be dependent on how big Derrick Henry's workload is this week. I know a lot of Alabama folks, even in Tennessee, want to see Derrick Henry do well and see him get the shine. He was excited to have that performance last week in front of his hometown fans in Jacksonville, and I think we'll see a lot more of him this week. And speaking of this week, this is another game against a stout defense. They played a stout front seven in Seattle, and I mean in Jacksonville last week, and now they have Seattle, another stout defense as a whole. So Derrick Henry will be key. You know, we'll see how Russell Wilson and the Marcus Mariota deal ends up going off. They're two guys who have similar skill sets, but you know they'll have to use their legs a bit this week. I think it'll be a defensive battle. I think it'll be a game where a lot of these pass rushers will be able to feast a little bit against, at least from the Seattle's perspective, a weaker offensive line. So I'm intrigued to see it. The Titans are 3-point favorites, which was a little bit of a surprise to me, even though they're at home. You know, Seattle's still a championship caliber team, but I think that showed a lot about how much respect people have for the Titans across the country. Drew, Adoree Jackson. I watched him earlier in film, and he was a guy who had the rough first week or so in preseason, and you were wondering, okay, is this guy going to be able to survive in the NFL? He was an athlete in college. We saw that athleticism as a returner, but his week 2 game film was really impressive to me. It started when he made that open field tackle on Leonard Fournette. He was out on the island, and I think that's a play where if he doesn't make that tackle, Fournette's going for a touchdown, and there's a good chance he goes for a touchdown and at least a first down. Kevin Byard was the only other guy in the vicinity who could have made that stop. So I think Adoree Jackson's a guy who is willing to put his nose in there, even though he's a smaller, undersized guy. He's willing to put his nose in there and make that tackle. And he also played pretty good coverage against that unit. I know Jacksonville doesn't have the receivers that a lot of teams have, but that one play where he nearly had an interception on the sidelines, that's an example of him using the sideline boundary as his weapon. He knew that, you know, Marquise Lee had only so much room. So he trusted his coverage, he trusted the sidelines, and he played them disciplined. And if he didn't miss time that jump, I joke with him after the game, if you don't miss time that jump, that's an interception, and we're sitting here interviewing you instead of Derrick Henry. But you know, those plays will come a little bit more as he gets comfortable, and he learns and trusts his instincts a little bit more. So I think it's encouraging for Titans and Titans fans to be able to see a guy like Adoree Jackson, a first-round pick at the cornerback position, play. I know I think as a returner, he's going to continue to be a weapon, and I think there's a good chance that he takes one back at some point soon. Corey Davis, another first-round pick. He's a guy who their first-round pick, and I think that Corey Davis has to get healthy, first of all. First week, we were excited about Corey Davis, 6 catches for 69 yards. He has the potential to be the number 1 receiver in this Titans offense. So I think as we go forward, as he gets healthier, you'll be able to see a lot of the things that we saw early in training camp and even in practice. He has great hands. He really goes out of the air and snags those grabs, and he runs really good routes. He was beating Logan Ryan consistently in training camp before he got hurt, and you don't see that a lot of times from a rookie. So I think as we go through the season, as he gets healthy, of course, I think you'll see Corey Davis at his best. I think the Titans really desperately needed that number 1 receiver, and they'll get him. He's a guy who really complements Rashard Matthews, Delaney Walker really well, because he's a guy who can make those difficult grabs, make those red zone catches, and that's really the identity of this receiving core on the back end, guys that can make plays for Mariota in a key situation when they need it. So I think I'm excited to see Corey Davis. I think his hamstring issue is a little bit of a concern. You've got a guy who missed a month with that hamstring. Hamstrings are tricky. I know, people want to see guys rush back, but I think he should get that thing 100%, because if he's not healthy throughout the season, then you're going to have a guy who doesn't give you anything near what you want to see. I think it's better to have him at 100% for 12 weeks than to have him at 75% for 15 weeks or the rest of the 14 weeks. So I'm intrigued to see how the Titans play this with Corey Davis and DeMarco. Both guys with hamstring injuries, soft tissue injuries that can linger. I think they'll play it safe, but you never know. They seem to be minor, but those things can easily turn into major. I've seen plenty of times where guys have had minor hamstring tweaks, tried to play through it, and then you tore a hamstring, and now you're out for the season. And I don't think anybody wants that for DeMarco or Corey Davis. And like you mentioned, Justin, it is still going to be a team dependent on the run game. So I think we will see a lot of shuffling in. Guy I'm excited to see, whether it's because Corey Davis is not playing or just because they get him more touches, Taywan Taylor. He's a guy who's third-round pick in this past draft, a guy who has the speed that a lot of the receivers on the Titans core don't have. And we saw it on Sunday against Jacksonville. He had a 42-yard catch down the field on a go route. And that's a route that not many of the Titans receivers are going to be as effective on as Taywan was. He had another end around on around the sweep on the corner for a 17-yard gain, and that speed is taking over. So he may not be a guy where, hey, his route running is going to let him play 70 plays on the field, but you've got to manufacture some touches for guys like that. I always call, Vance, when I was back in Denver, Vance Joseph used to always say, I'm looking for juice. Taywan Taylor's a juice guy, a guy who can explode and give you playmaking ability at any time. And I think that's the type of weapon that the Titans could really use to open up their offense and to really keep defenses on balance. If guys load up the box and say, hey, we're going to stop DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry, then, hey, we're going to throw it to Rashard Matthews. We're going to let Taywan Taylor beat you on the end around. Those type of things make a team more dangerous because they're a surprise. So I don't think that changed the identity of this team, but it does make them harder to game plan against. So I think we'll see more of that. I talked to Malarkey about that at the press conference earlier this week. And first week, Taywan Taylor had 6 reps, and last week he had 12 reps. Maybe he'll double it again. Maybe we'll see 18 reps out of him as he works his way up. Surprise Tennessee is favored over Seattle. Do you think Mariota can handle the Seahawks defense? I think that'll be a test. I think that's what we're eager to see. Seattle's got probably, in my opinion, a top 5 defense. I think it's the best defense the Titans have played so far. It may be the best defense they play all year. So I think this will be a good test. One, to answer that lingering question that everybody wants to know, is he still the same quarterback? I think we've seen a decent Mariota, but we haven't seen the same explosiveness and consistency as he had during that epic run in the middle of last season. So I think this will be a good test for him. I'll be eager to see the game plan that Terry Robisky and Mike Malarkey have set about for this team, because how safe do you play it? Do you say, hey, we're going to try to avoid mistakes and play a low-scoring game, or do you open it up? Do you let you trust your quarterback and let him make plays? I think that will really show what trust they have in Mariota as a quarterback, and as this Titans offense as a team. So I think he'll play. I think he'll play well. I think he's not afraid, really, for this type of matchup. So I think you'll see a lot of those short passes early to get him comfortable. I don't think you'll see as many deep bombs because you don't want to test the Earl Thomases and Richard Shermans of the game. But I think you'll see them trying to get the ball in their playmakers' hands, and then you'll see heavy doses of Derrick Henry and maybe a little bit of DeMarco Murray if he plays. Justin, no question, Henry needs to start or at least get more carries early on against Seattle to beat him. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I wrote about this earlier this week. I think Derrick Henry's coming. To quote Game of Thrones, he's coming. And whether it's to make it a 50-50 split, whether it's to be the starter, he has really shown that, okay, it's the second year. I'm here. And I'm not a rookie anymore. I'm not, still learning the offense. I'm in a position where I can contribute and I can be a starting caliber back. So Tennessee's using it as a luxury that they have 2 starting backs. But I think you'll see more of a DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry timeshare versus straight DeMarco Murray's our starter versus Derrick Henry's our backup. But yeah, we'll see this week the early remnants of that performance. It was a career day for him. Barber. I found a barber, I think, but if you got any recommendations, man, I definitely will take them. It's a struggle to kind of go from Denver and have a consistent guy to try to still find a guy. So, I've got a haircut now. I think it looks all right. Um, y'all let me know if I'm wrong, but I think we shoot me a note. Yeah, if you got a guy that you think is really good. I had one of my boys send me um, his note of a barber earlier, so I'm always for recommendations to see who's the guy. Um, yeah, Justin, a nice article by the way. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks, man. Thanks, appreciate it. I'm glad to be here, man. The platform has been great. It's a new beat. Got to learn new guys. The Titans team is completely different. Yeah, yeah. This is my first year in Nashville. Been here about a month and a half, and yeah, this beat is different, obviously, than Denver. But it's been intriguing all the same. It's football all the way around. So yeah, I think meeting a lot of guys, trying to build those relationships with guys, um, and yeah, going forward. Learning a little bit more about the team. That's why I like to talk to you guys. You guys know a lot more about the history of the team and the team as a whole, and I'm just learning. So I like to kind of hear what you guys have to say, and yeah, hopefully I'm giving you guys content that you read and that makes sense. Um, that's just what I'm here to do. Yeah, appreciate that, man. Joe Dubin. I'm not sure who that is. Is that a Nashville guy, a Titans guy? Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm familiar. It doesn't ring a bell immediately. Um, but yeah, man, I think this Titans team. Um, I predicted 11-5 earlier in the year, and there was a little bit of inconsistency in that Raiders game, but I think they're on track. I think when you look at the AFC South as a whole, you got to see that the Titans are got to be the favorite. You look at a Houston team where they look like they're going with Deshaun Watson, but they got drubbed by a Jaguars team that I think we saw wasn't very good. Indianapolis, who looks like a disaster without Andrew Luck, and I'm not sure how good they are even with him, and even when he comes back. And we just saw Jacksonville last week, so I think that the Titans are in a really good position. They got to be careful not to be complacent, and listen to me, people like me saying that they got it. But I do think they got it. I think it's more about them winning the games they're supposed to win down the stretch, and really thinking about, hey, we're not satisfied with just making it to the playoffs, because I do think they're a playoff team. They've got to solidify themselves as a contender, as a AFC contender all around. And I think the Raiders game was their first chance to do that. They came a little bit short. They followed back up with a win against Jacksonville, who probably isn't a playoff team. But then you got the Seahawks, who are probably a playoff team, even though they couldn't score those first two games. This is probably a playoff team. And you got to start beating playoff teams if you hope to be a contender. So 3-point favorites, like I said earlier. I think if they win this game, I think we learn a lot about this team, and we really start to think that they're going to be as good as a lot of people were hyping them up to be this summer. So, yeah, Raiders are tough, but that play calling was suspect. It's kind of been our own downfall. We have potential. We will see. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like the play calling. It's funny. I was talking to one of the reporters after the Jacksonville game, and I said that there's probably 3/4 of the NFL fan bases are unhappy with their coaches. And that's for winning and unwinning teams that don't win. And I think that's just the day and age of coaching in general. I think Malarkey, Rivitsky, they've been doing a solid job. I think, you can always have questions as far as play callers and should have did this. And we all want to be the Monday morning quarterback. I was watching the Tennessee game, and everybody, the Tennessee-Florida game, and everybody's like, why do you hand the ball to John Kelly? And it seems really simple for everybody else. But coaching is a little bit more difficult than we think it is, even if it doesn't seem that way. So I think they're okay in that department. They went from 3 wins to 9 wins last year. So I think we should give their coaching staff a little bit more slack than we give them at this point. But yeah, it is a big game. It is a big game. If the plays work, we love them. If not, yep, that's how it is. I mean, and that's how a fan base should be. I mean, if you don't care, then that means you got a bad fan base. I know there's a lot of fan bases that just they don't really care. They don't challenge the coach. You want to challenge the coach, and I think coaches like that. I mean, that's why we ask questions at press conferences to coaches, like, why did you do this? We ask. After the Raiders game on the 3rd-and-2 to DeMarco, why'd you run it to the short side of the field, Mike? And he gave us an answer. And these are things we're not smarter than the coaches, but it's in our right. And you guys want to know those questions. So I think that's our job to ask them. There will always be the fan team dilemma on who's right and who's wrong. But I think for the most part, this crew has been doing a good job. I think the Raiders are a very good team. And I don't know that loss says a ton about where the Titans are at this point. I think I said earlier after that game that that game may have been better for the Titans to play on week 5 or week 9 rather than week 1, because the Raiders are a team that was pretty solidified. They brought in beast mode. But other than that, they had their core: Derrick Henry, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree. Those were all guys that were there before. Whereas the Titans, they were formulating their receiving core. You could tell that Eric Decker and Corey Davis weren't really on the same page as Marcus on some of those early routes. So I think they'll get better. They'll get more consistent as they go on. I think the Raiders are probably, as of now, I think all 3 of those top AFC West teams are dangerous. You look at Kansas City, Denver, and Oakland. I think those are probably top 5 teams in the NFL right now, along with, you always got to put New England in there. And then Atlanta's looking really good as well on the NFC side. So I think those are your true top contenders. And if the Titans lost to a top 5 team in week 1, I don't really think that's an indictment on the team as a whole. So yeah, I'll take a few more questions. I got to run to practice in a little bit. Pete Carroll is going to be on a conference call a little bit at 12:30, so I'm going to run to that. But I'll take a few more questions from you guys, a couple quick ones, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this, and maybe we'll do it again. So yeah, fire away, guys. Let's see. Oh yeah, I like to do them. I did a couple of them when I was in Denver, and fans appreciate it. I think that we write stuff and we do TV all the time, or I do TV sometimes. That's a new area for me too, but that stuff is cool. But this is a way, I guess, just to kind of be informal. Like we're just talking, and sometimes you guys have questions that I can't write a full article about. And sometimes you guys just, it's good just to hear a little bit of insight, because I just watched the whole game tape of the Jaguars game, but I'm not going to be able to write about any of it because we're all about pushing everything forward. So it's all about Seattle this week. So this is a good chance for me to kind of tell you guys a little bit of what I saw in film, who stood out. Like I mentioned, Adore was somebody who really popped off on the screen. Rashard Matthews, I tweeted about him earlier. He's a guy who doesn't often pop up on the stat sheet as a star receiver, but he makes some huge catches. He made some big catches in that Jaguars game on 3rd downs, and any time that Marcus was really looking for him, that really kept the drive going. And those are the glue guys that you need. Guys who will get 4 catches for 60 yards every game. And they may not end up on SportsCenter, or they may not end up being when you're in a fantasy football game, but these are guys who are going to be the difference between winning and losing for offenses. And I think Rashard Matthews is that guy, a great number 2 receiver for them whenever Corey Davis gets ready. So I think he's one of their more important offensive players, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for what he does. Thanks, Drew. Glad to be in Nashville. Although it's gaining me some weight a little bit. I've been eating all this barbecue and hot chicken and stuff that y'all like. So it's been cool though. I was back in the South. I'm originally from Mississippi, and spent a lot of time in Texas. So it's cool to be back down here in warmer weather. Don't really have to worry about the snow as much. So just in insight resources. Yeah, let me know, man. Shoot me a note on here, on Facebook, on Twitter. I'm always down for food recommendations for different places that y'all like around the city. I'm still new to it, so I'm still trying to learn it as I go about. So shoot me anything you guys like, know about, and I'd be love to check it out because I'm here. So I've gotta find things that I enjoy as well whenever I have a chance to enjoy the city. So thank you guys. Thank you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and jet so I can go ahead and get ready to go to practice, and we'll do this soon. Ciao.